So Chester, how do you stay so positive in this crazy world?
That is a very interesting question. You know, I've always tried to be a positive person. I've always been very motivated. Like I've always want to have a good life and make a good impact. But my positivity comes from my faith in Christ, because I have hope. It gives me hope. And even if things are really crazy, I always believe that things can get better. And that's really what gives me, I believe, positivity. Plus, I look at the world, and a lot of it kind of sucks. And I want to be like the anti-world, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I've rarely ever heard you say anything negative about people. I mean, it's on a rare occasion, and then it's very minimal at best. Yeah. So how do you maintain that? Because it's hard for me. I'm naturally a negative person. I look at things and it's constantly doom mode, but you don't have that. I'd never see that in you.
I used to. Not a lot, but I definitely used to. And that goes back to my faith walk, really, is not trying to judge other people. You know, but the other side of that, I guess, would be that if I speak a thought, just because I think something, I don't have to say it. Because if you speak something, you give it life. And I don't want to give life to something that might, you know, end up harming somebody else or make me think worse of someone that I'm already struggling with. Because there are people that I love, for example, but I don't always like them so much. So I think part of it's not wanting to give life to that and maybe try to see the better in them, you know?
I know you said you struggle with that still. I think people have a view of the world, and it's easy to see you like that, but you still have, like you just said, some internal struggle with other people, because other people are out of your control and they can be negative and there's nothing you can do about that.
Sure.
How do you fight that? I know you kind of said how you just do that, but it's really difficult for me because I get mad, and I don't know if I just don't have enough life experience yet or what, but sometimes people get on my nerves and I'm just like, it boils out, but you just never, even when I've seen you upset, you're just like, okay, move on.
Some of it comes from the work I do with children. Like I could get really mad about someone because maybe they're doing something in the industry I work with and I have to work with them and they're being disrespectful or annoying or whatever. And I think, well, I could be the kid that I just worked with at the MD Anderson Cancer Hospital with a brain tumor. You know, so some of that gives me perspective of being able to like draw back on things and try to keep things in perspective and go, you know, so I'm going to try to move forward with this, you know. And then with people sometimes, there's just times you just go, sayonara. You know, like, not disrespectfully, but always like, you know what, I don't think this is going to work out. Or just walk away silently and wish them the best, you know, because there are times, not everyone has to be friends, but let's just try not to be enemies.
Yeah, that's fair. And especially you and I are in the media world. That's our job. And that comes with a lot of, I mean, I'm more so on the back end of the media world. Sure, I do a lot of video and stuff. You're more on the front side and you have a lot of public facing image. And that's difficult in and of itself, but the industry, I think, has just a lot of conflict because it's a lot of people vying for the spotlight. How have you maintained your public image, but without becoming like an egotistical maniac? Because I see that so much. Like a lot of people you see, they get their first taste of like mild fame even, and they just become maniacs.
I saw it in a band I was in, and there was just a particular member, and I had many members over the years.
Haven't we all?
So I'm not nailing anyone down specifically, but I remember we played this one very early show, and we had a lot of people, and the crowd really popped for us, you know. And the next rehearsal, it was like I was dealing with James Hetfield. You know, at the peak of his fame, you know, I'm like, dude, he just played to 150 people, and we're not Metallica here, you know. But just to get back to really the root of the question is, how do I maintain it? First off, you mean I'm not an egotistical maniac? I mean, come on.
Not the worst I've ever seen. No, I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, you're definitely proud of your work and you definitely promote yourself, but that's what you have to do in this industry. But I wouldn't call you an egotistical maniac.
I'm extremely confident in the work that I do. I know I'm good at it, you know, or I wouldn't do it. If I didn't think I was good at it, why would I want to be in the media? But I think the way of maintaining that is just, I'd never have disconnected from little 5-year-old me. Like I still see a lot of life through the lens of that. So here's little 5-year-old Chester in a 600 square foot house in West Orange, Texas, in a lower middle income house growing up in the time when a lot of people weren't working. My dad was in a union. They were on strike a lot. It was tough. And I would just dream. I love this wildlife stuff and a lot of the things I'm into so much. I would dream of like one day to get and connect with that. And so as I'm navigating my way through that, I'm like checking off things I dreamed about. And I'm going, who am I, to get an ego or to get, the big head or whatever, because I got to do this, this, and this. I would rather take that and turn that into how can I hopefully help inspire someone else to get here in their life, And I've always been very cognizant of the fact that I'm just still a little 5-year-old boy who was into my interests haven't really changed. I mean, if you look around my office, I'm into, Star Wars, Jaws, Marvel, horror movies, and mainly the great outdoors, fishing, hunting, wildlife. Nothing's changed. And so I think staying connected with the roots of whoever this guy is has been very helpful. And somehow I've been able to maintain that.
So you have been a great mentor to me in this industry. I mean, like just media in general is frustrating because it's basically boom or bust. It's very hard, but you always have a way to figure it out. Like you're very resourceful. Like we always get our stuff done. We always get it figured out. And it might be by, a hair. We might barely get it done, and we might have only slept, 3 hours on a 3-day trip or something, but we always get our documentaries done. We always get our crazy adventures done. How do you keep that hope? Because it is scary hanging on by a thread sometimes, but we always make it done. I'm here in Texas with you right now. We always figure out how to do it. And like, it's frustrating. It's hard. It's a lot of work, but you just always make it come together. How do you do that?
Well, I ask myself that sometimes. I'm often the one hanging by the thread,
Yeah.
But I've always believed that if there's something that's really in my heart that I believe in, I want to move myself toward that, and so most of the time that means I'm going to have to pick up most of the pieces and try to make it all work somehow. I think learning it came through being in bands, and by de facto, I ended up being a producer. Not because I wanted to be, because no one else really was. They were good at their instruments and their roles, but I kind of had to make things work, promote, put things together, book studio time, help with graphics in terms of things like that. And I think that really gave me a training ground for it. But it's just the relentless desire to do the best with the gifts that God's have given me. And I would much rather regret putting something in something that failed than I would chickening out and not doing it. That would haunt me. Just because, like I said, who am I? I'm a 5-year-old kid from West Orange, Texas, and somehow became a 50-year-old dude that's doing all this crazy stuff. But I told Lisa, my wife, the other night, I said, you know what? When I started out, I wrote down the goal of, because I didn't know all of this was coming, but I put, my goal is to be a successful outdoor wildlife journalist, right? And I left it that because I knew that'd be extremely difficult to maintain. I didn't put like this level of success, that level, a successful, because I said what I chose was basically the path of most resistance. What we do in media like this, independent media, is extremely difficult. And so I think that putting it all together is keeping that positive attitude and saying, you know what, at the end of this is going to be something special and awesome. And we'll get to step into something that people don't get to do, and it energizes me. But also the other part of that is I do believe when you do these things, there's a chance to help other people, or in the course of things like we're working on this great white shark documentary, help wildlife that I love. So that always at the end of the day is like a real motivator for me.
It's good to see a lot of people in your position could easily, and I see so many organizations do this, you could easily take the donations you get to run your kids ministry, your work that you do to help kids and wildlife. You could easily take 75% off the top, go buy about whatever you want, have a sweet life, but you always are putting all of that back. And I think that's something a lot of organizations just don't do. And that just shows your passion for it, but also it shows that you're doing this for a purpose and you're not just here to cash in. Because like, how do you, because I'm sure it's tempting at times, but how do you stay for so long doing this without being like, I'm just going to cash in and whatever?
The only thing we ever get covered is expenses, or we couldn't do it. We got travel expenses where we're going to get our gas paid, our fuel paid, our airfare, whatever, but we've never taken a salary, not once. And the reason is, at the level we're at with costs rising, if we took salary out of that, it would take away from the mission. And if someone said, okay, we're going to be a benefactor and you're automatically going to have 5 times what you make a year now, sure, one of us would take a salary. We're barely making ends meet, but it wouldn't be huge. And it all goes back to, is it taking away from the mission, the cause? And my cause is bring the love of Christ to hurting children through wildlife encounters and giving hope. And it's all about keeping that mission at focus. And some of it goes back to a face that I see a lot. A face of a kid that I see a lot. And I think about when I have these moments where I'm like, what in the heck am I doing? I could just quit this, put the thousands of hours we put in this back into my media career and make, twice the money. And it all goes back to, I want to help the kids, but I see a face of a particular kid that was very hopeless. And I'll never forget the look. And somehow what we did for that kid brought life to them. And I don't ever want to abandon that. I can't let myself get to where that's not what I'm thinking about. Because if it is, why am I doing it? And here's the thing with kids, they smell BS a mile away.
Oh, yeah.
They know. And you can't come at them falsely. If you do, it's not going to have an impact. If it does, it might be a negative impact. That's the last thing we want to do. It's always about that love of the kids. And I'm amazed sometimes at how people they have a real passion for something like this, and they give it a try for a year, 2 years, and they're like, oh, that's too much. And I'm like, that was too much? Come try this for a week, But I think it's just that I guess at the end of the day, we really do believe in the cause.
You embody this more than anybody I know. What's the importance of having a mission in your life? Because that's your driving force. Like, you don't do anything outside of your media career. You have your family and you have your kids' ministry. That's it. I've never heard you talk about anything else. I've never seen you do anything else. That's it. Like that, wildlife, and your family. Yeah. So I think a lot of what I'm getting at is that people my age, younger, don't seem to have a mission. And once I found my mission, I've just dove in head first, and everything.
Sure, you've done amazing at that.
Well, I just feel I can't not do it, and that's how I know it's the right thing.
That's where you got to be.
But like, how do you? I guess how would you tell a kid to find that mission? Because for some of us, it just comes and we get lucky and it happens, and for some of us, they never find it. And you're really good at helping people find that. I feel like, especially these kids you work with.
So, for example, like, I love the mountains. You've been in the mountains with me multiple times. And you might see this peak that really intrigues you, and you just can't not think about it. Well, then you're looking at it way off. Like, it looks like it's right there, but it's like way off. And you keep going toward it, and you're like, I really want to climb that peak. But on the way toward it, man, you run into a mule deer. You see a moose. My God, there's a trout stream. I happen to have a fly rod. You go fly fishing. You get up there, and then all of a sudden you run into a mountain goat. And then you see my favorite, a bighorn sheep. By keeping something positive ahead of you that's down in here, that's like that thing that came with you when you were a kid, that thing, or that thing that really gets you, like, where you feel nothing but positive, where you feel like that's a peaceful place, or I can really be an asset there. You keep that ahead of you. It's like that carrot in front of you, you just dangle it in front of you, keep moving toward it. You may not ever reach that exact peak, but along the way, you'll encounter all these things. And it's about having something that's over you that like you keep beholding, you keep looking at. And because you keep looking at something that is greater than your current, just whatever mess of a situation we're all in life at some point, I think that's the key. It's something that keeps challenging you, keeps motivating you. And I think that's really the important part of it is you have something that's always there that you believe in. But another thing, you had such great questions. It made me, the way you phrase that reminded me of something. When we're working with kids, so if we ask a 5-year-old, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be an NBA player, you know. I want to be a professional scuba diver. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a rock star. Mm-hmm. You ask a 12-year-old, it's muted. Oh, I think I might want to do this because somebody between 5 and 12 has told them they're too stupid. They're not good enough. They're autistic. They're this. They're that. And the world beats you up and spits on you. So you have to kind of rise above that. Maybe dig back. What really made me feel? What really made me feel like if I can just go see that one day or do that one day or be that one day? That's a good starting point.
Yeah. And it sucks to see because it's like a lot of people, and I just see this, I saw this at the airport this morning. I see this when I go anywhere, is just this. People are on their phone. There's 150 people sitting next to you in an airport, and then there's everybody going like this. And I think that's causing people to lose just like part of their soul, maybe. I'm not sure because I've said this on every podcast I've been on doing this so far is I deleted all social media off my phone. I was like, I want to live in the real world. I need to be where the real world is, and I'm missing things that are happening in real time. Yeah. And I think it's just kind of hard on kids because for them, it's probably an escape from all the crap you deal with as a kid. You know, I didn't have that. There wasn't a phone with social media on it. We had texting. We could text each other. No different really, or watch TV, but it's like this escape. And I think when you're not confronting real life, I think a lot of people are losing this ability to just grit and get through stuff. Like some of the films you and I have worked on, good Lord, we were out there 15, 17 hours. Like from the time the sun comes up, we were in Yellowstone till the time the sun went down. We were out filming, doing stuff with the kids. Mm-hmm. And, you know, a lot of people don't have that grit anymore. And I think it's partly because they don't have this passion that they found for something. And partly it's because it's just easier to sit on your phone and watch TikTok.
It is. And I struggle with that with my daughter. My daughter's like all other kids. She wants to be on her phone all the time. She's on it way too much. But she is making a lot of YouTube videos. That's one of her things that she's creating. But we struggle with that with her, and we see that with other kids. But I think it's even bigger than the technology. I think it's something that's inherent, a sickness in our culture. I think somewhere along the line we believe less of ourselves, that we can't get there, we can't do this. And maybe it's because we put celebrity, for example, on such a pedestal where it's become a god, a false god, that people look at this fake ideal and they're like, well, that's what's supposed to be relevant in the world. I can never get there. I can never look like that. I can never do that. I don't have that kind of talent. When they realize you don't have to bounce a ball or be able to be an actress or a singer to have talent and give to the world. So I think it's like the cult of celebrity, I think, has had a part of that too, because, you know, you don't even have to be famous. You just got to do something rotten that gets you on a social media mention and you're a celebrity now. Mm-hmm. So I think we've like downgraded our ideals to the point where a lot of people think, well, you know, I can't ever be that, you know, because we've so put celebrity on a pedestal, and you have the perfect people who usually implode at some point and show they're not perfect, you know?
That's a common thread.
Yeah.
Let's switch topics here. You've had a long writing career, and creativity is a huge point of this podcast because I see a lot of people struggle with it. I think creativity, and to me, there's a vast difference between a working person who does creative work and someone who has the idea of being creative.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm fairly confident you'll agree with me on this just because I know you. I don't view creativity as this mystical thing that people have that's like, I can only write when I feel the urge. we make money doing this stuff. If someone wants a video and they want it to be emotional and make you cry, and I just did a video where a guy basically had his life changed because he had a kidney transplant. And I wanted it that the goal was to make people feel that emotion of how his life changed.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if I felt like I wanted to create that or not. They paid me money to do it, and I had to make it emotional. And I think it's just like working out or like practicing paint strokes or whatever. The more you do it, the easier it is. It's just like anything else. And you've been writing nonstop for what, 30 years?
Yeah.
As our career. Mm. Do you think that that creativity is something that is just you do versus something that's the spirit that rises up in you and you do yoga and
look, it's all that artistic crap.
Yeah, yes, that's
if that I hear that when I would work with musicians at points and they're like, well, I'm not very inspired. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm not either right now, but we need to write a song. Let's get through this and try to make it happen. We have a certain, there's a band called Overkill. And they are a legendary thrash band. I'm not a big fan. They're real good, but never was a huge Overkill fan. But Bobby Blitz, the singer, said something very profound one time. He said, look, we're not artists trying to get the world to approve of our art. We're craftsmen with a certain set of skills. We go in the studio and do our best using our craft and discipline ourselves to write music and perform at our best level. And we put out a product called music and we play a show. We're not trying to get the world to approve of us through our art. And I think that's kind of the difference. People are like, well, I don't feel inspired at this very moment. You know how many moments I feel inspired to write a week? Almost never, because I got so much stuff going on, but I have deadlines and I got checks to get sent to me because I write stories. And so I think that is definitely a difference. And, but I think there's you mentioned the mystical aspect of people think. I think people do think that. Like creativity is some kind of a thing. I think it's a God-given gift, but a gift is to be used, not to just sit around and wait. Well, I don't feel the moment, If you want to do that and be like the starving artist and all that stuff, that's fine. But I'm not that guy. I'm trying to make a living doing what I like to do, which is whether it's writing or it's speaking or photography or whatever I'm doing, I like to create. And to me, it's like if some guy writes 3 poems a year and feels special about himself, fine. I wrote 300 articles,
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I look at it,
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, there are some weird things in creative work that there's no explanation for.
Sure.
Like that song that you're like, where did this come from?
Oh, yeah, I've had that. I had that recently with the scripts for the Great White Shark documentary we're working on. I've been formulating notes and ideas in my head for a long time. And I sat and wrote the thing in 3 hours. And sometimes that happens when something happens where everything lines up. And I love those moments, but I can't wait on it. I've been waiting a long time for a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and also too, I think there's this idea that there has to be this perfect final product. I've put out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 albums in my life. I've put out hundreds and hundreds of YouTube videos.
Yep.
I've probably put out in this point in time 10 to 12 documentaries. Mm-hmm. And at some point you have to say, yeah, this isn't perfect, but it needs to go.
It goes back to that craftsman thing, the Overkill guy said. I did my best that I can do right now. Yeah. I put my heart and soul in it. There it is. Check it out.
Yeah. The next one can be a little bit better. I'm not too worried.
It's never going to be perfect.
Well, and again, to the other side of it, there are days, probably more days than not, where I have no desire to work on this stuff. I mean, there are just days where it's like turning on the computer, opening the editing program, and I have, they want their stuff. They paid for a video. They want their video. And I'm like, I got to get them their video. And it doesn't matter if I want to do it or not. Mm-hmm. How do you fight that urge? Because for me, it's a daily urge. Oh, yeah. To put this together is going to be a huge battle in my head. But I like it and I love my passion projects, but it's like the work has to come first. And by the time the work's done, this stuff is like, man, I'm tired.
So driving in today, you saw the new refineries they're building. Mm-hmm. I don't want to freaking work there. Yeah. I'm not qualified for that. I would be ate up and chewed up. That is not what's in me. But what's in me is a creative person. So I go, you know what? I could be there. I could be flipping burgers. Nothing wrong with any of those. Those are all good trades. But I ain't qualified for it. So I'm going to do the best I have of what I do, or I could end up doing something I hate. And that's to me, that like when I was in school, like I wasn't a great student because I thought the system was rigged and I was right. You know, that's one thing I was like, this thing is complete garbage. But I was working on being a writer in ninth grade when I decided I want to go toward a writing or music career. I was working on studying. I remember buying a music industry book. I learned how royalties worked in like ninth grade, and I'm like, man, they're getting messed over, and buying creative writing books. And I got in journalism in 11th grade and things like that. And finally a class that I'm going to use, so I had 2 classes that I used in high school, 2 journalism classes, 11th to 12th grade.
More than
keyboarding, that I did use that. 3. But I remember just being like, it's terrifying to think I'm going to have to go out and do that because that ain't me. This is me. So I want to be me, and I will fight to be me to a bloody battle. You know what I mean? Cause I'm not someone who can fake it real well, So like I said, I chose the path of most resistance, and here we are.
Yeah. Well, that leads to another point is being you authentically is also something that I feel is missing a lot in today. And like you're Chester, whether we're meeting with the CEO of the biggest wildlife foundation in the world and working on a documentary, or the biggest great white shark scientist in the United States, or we're driving from the airport to your office, it's the same Chester all the time. So what do you have to say about, especially to people watching or listening, about being authentic?
That's a weird kind of question. It's a great question, but it's kind of hard to think about because I'm just kind of doing what I do. But I have thought about people have told me like, dude, you're the same guy when you were speaking in front of those people at the church that you were back at the concert I saw you at. I'm like, well, I remember being in, I went through a lot of bullying and stuff in school. I think I only got physical once. I got punched once and then whatever, but that was it. And mostly it was just a lot of really crazy, insane, if I told the whole story, verbal stuff, unbelievable stuff. And for years. And it would have been real easy not to be me because the things that I liked were the things that people hated about me. They hated that I had long hair. They hated that I was a metalhead. They hated this. They hated that. And I could cut my hair and start listening to Vanilla Ice, which was big back then, but I think I'd rather jump in the bayou and let alligators eat me, So I wrote a book that I've never released. It'll probably end up being maybe like an audio book or something. It's kind of my story from that. One of the things I said, I remember being in like ninth grade, and the kids at school who were messing with me were listening to Vanilla Ice, and I'm like, how on earth could I identify with stop, collaborate, and listen, Ice is back with whatever? And I'm like, when I'm getting bullied and I'm listening to Megadeth say, in my hour of need, you weren't there, and though you reached, in my darkest hour, off So Far So Good, So What album, So I'm like, I'm just going to be me. And it really came to a head in kind of a couple of key moments, really is, and I wasn't ever a fighter, but by ninth grade, I had gotten sick of it. I was done. And this guy said something to me at school. It was very, very disrespectful. And I'd known the guy for a long time. I'm like, let's go, let's fight. He says, let's do it after school. So I met him after school. And I rode my bike with one little kid in our neighborhood follow me down there. He followed me. He said, where are you going? I'm going to fight. He followed me. And like his whole neighborhood shows up with him. And people I thought were my friends are over there with him. And I get in a fight with this guy and he beats me. But this is a funny story. They pull us apart and I'm like, I wasn't hurt or anything and whatever. And he runs off leaving and cussing me. And I go home and I look in the mirror, make sure they didn't see I was dirty. So I'd be on the ground and didn't have a bruise or anything on. I'm like, sweet. And I go in my room and I start crying. I cried my eyes out. Not because I was hurt. I was sick of it. I was done. It was like, I'm done with this. And I remember going to school the next day and going, oh man, I am going to get worse at school. And I walk in and I got a couple of shots and his eye was like that black. And I'm like, whoa, I got a good lick in. And one kid walked up to me. How'd the fight go? You saw him? And I walked off, you know. I never heard about it. But what really was the transformation was I had stood up for myself. Mm-hmm. And then about a week after that, I mean, I was a mega Metallica fan then. And I remember seeing Lars Ulrich on MTV special say, we do what we do, we play what we believe in, and we don't care what other people think. And I remember in a moment going, that's how I'm going to live my life. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, I consciously decided I'm going to live my life believing what I believe and living how I want to live. And I don't care what the consequences are.
I think that's a better way to be.
Yeah.
Because you don't have that as much, I should say, of that weight of when you do something, like the first thing I think is, are people going to like this?
Sure.
I don't care. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not completely ignorant, and I don't ever think like, I hope they see me good. I want them to see me good, but I don't like, as a pastor of mine once said, I think the difference is you probably care a little what people think, but you don't lose sleep over it. I said, There you go. That's the ticket. I mean, I'm not callous about it, and I certainly try to be respectful to everybody, but it's definitely that. And I saw people who faked it, even at that age, and they just became somebody else to be friends with people. And I saw those people making fun of them behind their back, and I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
Now, far as the ease of life, if I cut this, not worn bandanas or beaties and black shirts and been in metal bands and all the stuff you're not supposed to do, dude, I am a conundrum. I am a born-again, believing, spirit-filled Christian who is a metalhead who grew up liking horror movies, hunts and fishes, and has long hair, and that works in the outdoors industry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like the stereotypical anything. One of my friends called me a unicorn. He's like, and
like a heavy metal, black metal unicorn. Or something.
Yeah, it's weird, man. So but I'm here, I'm successful, and you know what? I did it being me. And to me, success is doing what I'm supposed to do and being me in the process, Well,
it's just funny because I was editing a video for a conference we're going to as like basically a testimonial kind of thing. And everybody, I'm just so happy to be here. It's such a great event. And then I cut to your interview, you're like, this is a nuclear missile of conservation. And I'm just like, yep, that's Chester. Everybody's just so political and like very well worded. He's like, we're going to blow this place up. It's crazy. I'm like, that's Chester, dude. That's just how it is. And that's what you get every time.
Yeah, man.
It doesn't matter.
It's like there's a certain level of intensity in here that keeps fueling me. You know it because I'll wear you out, when we go on trips.
Yes, you do.
And this guy can hang, but like I got other friends who would be dead in 2 hours. Like, some of these trips would be dead.
Yeah. Well, another thing that you do very well, and I think this is one of the biggest whining things on earth, is everybody I know. It's funny, the people I know that complain about not having any time don't ever get anything done.
Never.
And you are the busiest person I know, and you get more stuff done in a day. I said every time you and I get together on one of these trips, we get more done in a week than most people are going to get done in the next 6 months to a year.
What's coming from this is our first day together. We've been together for
a couple hours.
We're already filming this, right? Yeah. We've already planned stuff. I've done a production role stuff he's been setting up. There's going to be a lot done, so I think that comes out of just wanting to see it happen. You can either be a doer or you can be a viewer, And I want to be a doer. I want to be the person doing it just because I like to engage in things and I want things to happen. And like the Great White Shark thing we did, and we went out to Cape Cod with the Atlanta White Shark Conservancy and all that. Dude, for me, that's like as cool as it gets. It took a lot of work, a lot of things going on. I know people who won't do like vacation type stuff because it's work. Mm-hmm. Like they won't go plan a trip. Well, that's a lot of work. That's for fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can't even go plan to have fun.
Yeah.
And much less go out to do work. So it's being disciplined with time.
Yeah, that's big.
Very much in discipline. Like I'm going to get up. I get up every morning. I pray for a few minutes. I go do my stretches and stuff. I'll get me some water, my vitamin mixed water, and I check my emails and I get going on whatever creative project. I'll set my goal list for the day. And I usually don't get through everything because I got so much on my list. I put like stupid amounts of stuff on my to-do list every day, but I usually hit 75% of them.
Yeah.
And we'll just keep going. And I think it's discipline. And then just going back to that thing I said earlier about being a little 5-year-old boy that sees himself in these positions, go, man, I would have freaked out. I have to remind myself of that, because that's where that intensity comes from, you know? Someone asked me recently, man, I bet when you were like 25, you were like even more like, I said, no, I'm actually more now. I mean, literally, you can ask my wife, I'm more now. And I was a lot then. But that also comes out of my faith, because I have hope now. I didn't have that before, you know? So having hope gives me the belief that even better things can happen. And hopefully along the way, I can use whatever I'm doing creatively or ministerially to help other people. And that's always been a motivating factor, because I've always seen people in life that I picked one little thing off of that really helped me in a dark time, you know, like Lars Ulrich quote, you know. There's always been things I'm like, I could take that from that person. That really inspired. It might be the way someone handles their art, the way the creativity and the discipline or whatever it is, a musician or whatever. And so, you know, if I have a chance to be that for somebody else, that's a motivating factor for me too.
Yeah, and I think it's just one of the things that's the most frustrating, because you and I are very much at the same, I don't want to say energy level. You have way more energy than
You got a lot, bro.
But we do stuff and we have a standard for our things, and we say, like, when I call you and I say, hey, Chester, we need this narration or something, it's never like, yeah, I'll get it to you in a little bit. And it's like, you say, you'll have it tomorrow. And I wake up and I open my inbox and there's the narration. And a lot of people's lives, even though it seems more frustrating and counterintuitive, if you just did that, your life would be so much better. Like every year I've been trying to implement that more, because there's a lot of things I don't like to do. Like, I hate doing the dishes. So I wake up every day and I do the dishes right away.
Taming the beast, man.
Tame the beast, get it over with, and then I'm done. And there's a clean slate and I'm good to go. And then I try and implement that with stupid stuff like my taxes. God, I hate doing taxes. I hate going to the tax guy. It's the least favorite thing of the year. And this time I was like, I'm going to get my taxes done. First thing. First, when I get the thing back, done. I don't have to worry about it anymore. And I think, and counterintuitively, it's like this annoying stuff you want to push off. If you get it done right away, it makes your life easier, because then you have the rest of the time, and it usually doesn't take as long as you think it does. It rarely takes as long.
It's like a lot of times the minutia stuff that we don't want to do. Once we get that done, it kind of frees up maybe even that creative side of us to where we can go tackle those bigger projects. You know, it's like a snowball. You know, if it can turn into like an avalanche, right? One little snowball rolling downhill can turn into an avalanche. And if you're at the bottom of that mountain, that avalanche is coming. Well, that's all the things you didn't do for the last year. But if you take care of that, you know, it's you got, you know, kind of a clean slate to go climb. You know, I think you hit on a really important point there.
So this is something that is hard for me, is how do you, and you to me are very good at this I've seen you do it in person. How do you say no to stuff that you just don't want to do? Because I think a lot of us, either we're trying to, like you said earlier, fit in, or we're trying to impress people, or we're trying to get ahead in the industry or whatever, and we say yes to everything. Oh, I want to go to this event. I'm going to go to this event. I'm going to go to this conference. I'm going to go to this. And eventually you're just like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to talk to these people. I don't care. I'm not. So how do you get good at just saying no to stuff? Because I've seen you be like, no, I can't do that. I'm sorry. And then you just move on.
Some of us having said yes to stuff in the past and regretted it, you know? I mean, that's definitely part of it. The other part is just the one resource you can't get back is time. And that's time away from your family, time away from your passion, your creativity. And not everything is for us. You know, I think we overdo in any industry networking. I think networking turns into butt kissing way too much. And I have a real problem. Now, networking is a good thing. We need to do it. You know, you got to meet people. But when you're like whole things, I'm going to be a networker. Somebody brought me years ago to a networking group. It's about 12 or 13 years ago. They wanted to help me out there. They connect with some of the stuff that we do in our ministry work, because there was all these influential people there, and I went. I wanted to gag 3 minutes in. And And I'm like, dude, this is like the most ungenuine thing I've ever been through in my life. And at the end, they take the guests into a room, like this quiet room. There's two people sitting at a desk. It's kind of a dark lit room. And I walk in and go, hey, this is some kind of secret society thing. Is it? I ask them that. They go, no. I said, well, I ain't joining. Thank you for having me. And I'm out. That's kind of how I think about it. And you got to have the value for your time.
Yeah.
And the things that really count, being with my wife and daughter counts. Going to some schmoozy event because it might possibly help me land some kind of a thing probably doesn't. And then there are things that like I can't add to. And if it's some kind of endeavor in an industry or something that I can't add to and I can't be an asset to, probably shouldn't go. So those are kind of the ways I weigh it, But I've been done stuff that I'm like, oh my God, what a waste of time. So I can kind of smell those from a mile away now.
Yeah, I mean, in college and in that's all they talk about. You need to go network. You need to go network. I have been, so basically the last 2 years, I have been on to every conference. I've won grants to go to conferences, wildlife conferences, writers conferences, creative conferences. I applied for all that, went to them, and probably met hundreds of people. Mm-hmm. You know how many jobs I got out of that? 0. So, I mean, the best stuff that I've ever had is from like actually building real relationships with real people.
Yeah.
And, having just doing good work and like constantly, as much as it's a frustration is having good customer service. The last thing I ever want to do is, and I'm sure you deal with this too, being the editor-in-chief of a magazine, is when somebody sends me something, the last thing I want to do is re-edit it. I already put hours into it, and it's like, can you change this? I'm like, yep. But it's like, I've gotten more value out of doing that and just being nice and straightforward with people too, with realistic expectations, than going to freaking networking events. All that I've gotten out of networking events is hangovers and 100 business cards that ended up in the trash.
Like I said, there is, I believe, a value to networking, but I think it's like a genuine networking. Like there was a particular realm of the wildlife world I want to get more involved in because it's something that was in my heart. Mm-hmm. So there was a conference, and I went and just paid my own way to go to the conference to meet the people that were there and figure out how to get involved and using my talents to help that particular part of the wildlife world. And it turned out beautiful. But that wasn't just a networking event. I was aiming at something that's part of what my mission is.
Well, you were going to write about that topic regardless.
Sure. But I got to go interview the top experts. Mm-hmm. So it's aiming toward what I think, that's interesting to think about this way. If your network, aim it toward the mission, not just a general thing. Well, I don't meet this guy because he can open this door and this guy, and he can open this door. Because tell you something, a lot of these people that are high level people in the industry or any industry, they get networked to death.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily care. But if they see you got heart and you're really and you understand what they're trying to do and you can add your talents to that and your energy to it, that's not building relationships. That's genuine help. Mm-hmm. That you want that. You don't just want some guy going, hi, I'm such and such and I can do, I'm like, shut up.
Yeah, I don't care.
I don't care. You're not, that's like the metalhead, like, found me is like, I struggle with this stuff too. Like I said, Lord help me, but that's part of that original thing you asked me, which was like, how do you stay so positive? Yeah. Faith and patience. Yeah. So there we go.
Well, and I'm not saying networking's bad.
No.
I met you because of a networking event, essentially.
I didn't say it's bad either.
But if you're just broadly going out and just networking with a shotgun blast into the air, you're just really not good.
I know people do it all the time and they get nowhere.
Yeah, and back to the whole thing I said about having a passion about something and having a mission, I have a mission right now and I am all in on the mission of becoming like the best filmmaker I can be.
Yep.
Whether that's making corporate videos for people, I treat it all the same. I treat it all as I take this dead serious, and people are like, you spend too much time, you're overproducing, you're giving them too much. That's what I want to do. I want to be known as someone who does good work. I don't want to be known as someone who gives you an okay video for the money you're paying me. Like, that's not what I'm here to do. And I think people they talk themselves out of doing good things because
that's
it's
because
easy.
they go to these conferences with these idiots that are up there charging them $1,000 for a networking conference to tell them they should go network at other places, and they're getting that guy rich.
Yeah.
That's because they're listening to stuff like this, and they're not putting their heart. You mentioned like you have this heart for this, putting your heart, your soul, your vision, and your focus and your integrity in it, which is the best you can be. Why would you want to put a creative endeavor out that you didn't put your best in?
Yeah, my name, that's what I always say when I get lazy. Like, we all get lazy and we're like, we got shit to do. And and it's I always sit back and I'm like, come back tomorrow and you're not angry at this because your name goes on this. That's it. And I'm sure this will happen to me. It hasn't happened yet, but I've seen people release things regularly that have like black screens, missing clips, unedited audio. And I'm like, this is your name on this. I watch every video I put out through before like everything I've ever made for you, everything I've ever put on YouTube. I watch the whole video.
I had a situation recently. This is the weird thing about you mentioned tech and stuff earlier with this, where someone called me about something that had my name on it. And I'm like, I don't think I did that. Because I've done a lot. And I'm like, that could have been years ago. And I'm like,
that could have been 2 weeks ago and you forgot.
And it was something that someone had taken, obviously, and taken an AI program out of one of my lectures on YouTube and made a story out of it. And I was like, I did not say to use an 8-pound jig head on a flounder bait and the flounder's that long, you know?
You called me about that.
Yeah, and I was like, what the heck's going on? So sometimes you can be your product can be represented badly because nothing you did. Yeah. You certainly don't want to give people that don't like you ammunition on your own.
That is true. So when you combine basically for your work, your passion and your job. I've known in the past, those things like music, when we got signed to record labels, when we were touring constantly, once it got to that level, I basically wanted nothing to do with it. And that's why I'm very much know that this is what I should be doing, because I'm like, I gotta quit and go work at a factory. It never crosses my mind. I'm like you. You're gonna have to drag me in there in chains to make me do that. It's not in my blood. But how do you keep yourself from going crazy, I guess, and staying motivated and on top of your field while your passion and your job are combined? Because a lot of people burn out.
I've burnt out before. I've definitely burnt out. I mean, not a complete burnout, but I burnt out where my work wasn't as good as it could have been. I've had periods where I was like in a dark place before I gave my life back to Christ 20 years ago, looking at my writing and went, Now, nobody's going to notice it but me, because I write at a pretty freaking high level. And I'm like, I was writing a little bit down here at that point. I wasn't pushing myself. But when I start getting back and I refresh myself, I was able to go, you know what? If I'm not pushing myself in my work, then I'm not doing it. If I'm not doing it the right way. So I kind of remind myself it's going to have to be a little bit of struggle, because there's not a little bit of a struggle to do it. I'm not pushing myself in that particular. There's always, in any kind of creative endeavor, there's always a struggle to be had to get to the best point. So I just always kind of remind myself of that, and stay really connected to that original vision, which was to be a successful wildlife journalist. And that means I got to stay consistent. That means I got to stay working. That means I have to stay focused. And it just, like I said, mission statement, goals, stay on the mission. And it's all about really staying on that mission.
I think the key word is consistency. That's a huge thing that people miss when it comes to this stuff, because it's just like, you watch a guy on YouTube and he deadlifts 1,000 pounds and you're like, how do they do that? Like, he goes every day and that's what he does. And it's the same thing with writing. It's the same thing with video. I mean, if you go back on YouTube to the first video you and I ever made together, which was from a conference, you were speaking at a conference and we went to some crazy serial killer park or something. I don't know. We went and made something.
Fan killer location from 1946. Yeah.
That's a whole other story in and of itself. If you look at that and you look at the last thing we made, it is like here at the very bottom level. At the time, that was the best I could do. I was doing as best as I could with the equipment I have. I didn't have all this stuff that I have now, this fancy stuff. And then you look at where we're at here, and I'm sure in 3-4 years from now, we're going to be here. And it's just, we just never stopped doing it. In this very office, we filmed some of the first videos, and the office is different, our vision's different, our equipment's different, our skill levels are different. I think a lot of people give up before they get to that. We were just talking about how many people do we know that started podcasting when we started years and years and years ago, like 6-7 years ago for me, and probably longer for you. How many people have stopped that you met in your first couple of months or whatever, and then you're still going, and these people they didn't even get past the start.
This goes back to something I talked about, getting little nuggets from people. Gene Simmons of Kiss, one of my heroes growing up.
All your quotes are related to heavy metal.
It's like, look, it's either the Bible, Star Wars, or metal. Go figure. Just work with me, people. So Gene Simmons said, I remember in high school, because I was a huge Kiss fan. I knew Kiss before I knew what music was, I think. And I remember always thinking it was cool that Gene and Paul were on drugs and everybody else in the 80s was snorting enough, cocaine to kill a moose. And Gene Simmons said, look, I'm not interested in being the short distance guy. I don't care about running the 100-yard dash. I want to win the marathon. Mm-hmm. I want to be consistent. I want to put out good shows every time I go. I want to give my best. And that stuck with me about keeping that vision, man. It'd be nice to have done that 100-yard dash and just quit right now. But I want to be the guy remembered for winning that long distance marathon, and I want to be that in my life is still going. It's not impressive for someone, David Lee Roth, once again, here we go, putting another broadcast. This is hilarious. He said, here today, gone later today.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be here today, gone later today. I want to still be here.
No, I remember we were doing something last year and we had a frustration about this person, and I won't say the name or any context, but it was, and you literally said, don't worry, dude, here today, gone later today. And no shit, no sooner than we talk about it the next time, person was already gone. So it's hilarious how that works out. And I think that's something that I tell myself too. You get these mouthy people and you get these people who, it's human nature to want somebody else to fail. I mean, it's just like, that's what like, that guy's doing better than me. Screw him. And it's just part of human. We're competitive. We're just how we are. And once you realize that, they have no sway on you and none of that matters. And if you just keep your eye on the goal, you're going to get ahead. I remember when I got my first paid video job, I was so nervous because I was like, I don't think I'm good enough for this. They loved it. Most people don't know anything about video. You have a camera and they're like, oh, sweet, this is way better than what I could do. And then, I think they paid me like $500. Today I wouldn't even accept the job. I was like, but I was so excited. $500. I could buy a new lens.
Sure.
And, I was so excited. I did the best. I probably put 10 hours into this 2-minute video. And then that mentality has never left me. I've upgraded tens of thousands of dollars more in equipment.
And it shows with you because I've watched your work develop over the last 5 years. And I've watched you always put out good work, but you literally will test yourself with I'm trying this right now. It's this lighting thing or this audio thing. And you're always trying to go that isn't good enough. It's not good enough. We won an award for that, but it's not good enough. I got to do this. And that inspires me. You inspire me with that. I'm like, oh, man, that's pretty awesome to keep tweaking even the equipment, level like that.
I just want it to be when, like I said, I put my name on it. I want it to be it's not about getting more calls for the best video project. It's like every time I deliver something to someone or give someone a project, I don't want them to be like, it feels like this guy half-assed this.
Yeah.
Even if it's not, I'm not putting out Emmy award-winning documentaries yet, but I'm saying if I'm not pushing it, even if it's just a little bit, maybe the color could just be a little better. If it could just be before I came down here to do this trip, I was agonizing because I have a vision for the documentary we're about to film. And I'm like, I need a wider lens. And I've spent days just looking at lenses and comparing them online. And I finally found the one I wanted. And then I'm like, oh, well, I want to do this lighting scenario. And then I'm like, this light that we're using for this right now, this purple background. I spent days watching YouTube video reviews like, was it this one or better? And then I have these crazy visions of like, I got to get all of this gear into this one bag when I come down to you. And I get like, it's just like always like push. When first time I came here to film something with you, I had a Nikon DSLR and I borrowed my cousin's little Panasonic camera and we filmed something for you in here. I don't remember what it was. That was the background, the elk head. And
we filmed the sheep scrapbook stuff.
The scrapbook. And it looked not great by my standards of today. It was okay. Yeah. It was good enough. But like that little, but that's what I'm saying is like, that's my vision is like, if I can just do one little bit better, if I can learn how to export this video to make it look a little crispier, if I can just go, and every time we tell a story, if I can make it a little more and make the music a little bit, and it's like, I don't know if it's a mental disorder or what.
As someone who does similar things a little bit differently, but similar, it may be a mental disorder. I feel like it sometimes. But see that? You felt alive. There's energy even talking about it.
Yeah.
Most people never feel alive.
Yeah.
Most people just go do life and they have no zeal. They have no energy because they've settled. They bought the status quo. Mm-hmm. And buying the status quo is dangerous. And another thing that's very dangerous is looking back. Mm-hmm. Nostalgia has killed more people than methamphetamine.
Yeah.
Because people will look at the past and they'll do two things. Oh, it'll never get better than it was then. Or they'll look at the past and go, oh, it was horrible. And my future can't be because my past sucked. Mm. So I think it's important to look forward to like use the past as a good healthy indicator of where we can go or maybe where we don't want to go. And then always keep that vision ahead of us of where we're going. And that makes you excited because there's new things, new challenge. We're not made to be stagnant. I mean, the Lord told Adam and Eve, he said, be fruitful and multiply. Mm-hmm. Be fruitful. Like do something that's exciting. Do something that matters. And, cause I have, I absolutely want to either laugh or vomit when people say stuff like, well, you're getting a little bit older. Don't you think you ought to slow down? No, I'm going to speed up. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I hope I drop dead doing it.
How stupid would that be? Oh, I'm just going, I'm above 40, so I must slow down. What kind of the best work I've ever done is in recent years? Why? Because it's still right there,
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. I just hope everybody can find that passion because it doesn't matter what it is. If it's baseball, if it's running, which more power to you. Good not for me. But whatever it is, if you can find that about that one thing, and I think a lot of people get hung up on like, I need to figure out a way to make this monetarily successful. I was like, dude, when I started doing this, I never thought about money. I buried myself in cameras and whatever I could afford at the time and little junk pieces to learn and break and like people, every professional I've talked to in any industry, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a podcast, personal conversation, I don't ever ask them about money. I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. Every single one of them said, hands down, do good work, do the best you can and stay focused on it. And like the passion, keep the passion, the money will come. Absolutely. If you're good enough, the money will come.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't be delusional. If you have no basketball skills and you're, 4'8" and you're a guy, you're probably not going to play in the NBA. But that 4'8" guy may be really good at programming. And, whatever comes out of you and you just put your heart and soul into it and keep going and keep pushing yourself, success will come. But you got to be consistent. You got to keep going. And you got to get over the opinions of people too, because people hate other people being successful sometimes. Some people are very inspired by it. Some people freak out. Like, who do they think they are? And, whatever, who cares?
To wrap up here, you are very passionate about working with kids. And I know you do a lot of what you do to try and inspire kids to not necessarily be writers, but to do whatever they're passionate about. So what advice would you have to kids maybe who are watching this to how to start a career in something that they're passionate about, whatever that is?
Well, I would line up, a passion with a skill. So like maybe you're really into sports, but you're not physically an athletic person. Maybe you're a pretty good communicator. So maybe you want to go to journalism school and you want a degree in journalism to be a sports writer, or a broadcaster. And what you do is then you take that and you go, like I did, which I did with in the outdoors room, you go harass people to publish your work. You go to the local, if you want to be a broadcaster, you go to the local little league, say, can I announce? You go to, if you want to be a reporter, you start going on your own and creating a blog, and you start putting sports scores in your analysis of games, and you start doing that, engaging it, and just moving toward it, and never taking a day where you're not moving somewhere toward that. But I think it's combining your giftings and your passion, because your gifting, maybe communication, maybe mechanical abilities, but maybe a guy with a mechanical ability doesn't want to work on boats, but he really likes hot rods. So you go toward that. You find a shop that works on hot rods. Say, hey, can I come watch you guys work and learn a little bit? You always find some way to line up your gifting with a passion that you have in life, and then don't accept anything other than moving toward it, even if it's an eighth of an inch every day.
That's the hard part. When you're in it, to keep going. But I think and at the end of the day, that's what they say that separates the men from the boys, is getting up and doing it if you don't want to even.
I had a project recently that was the biggest single creative project freelance I've ever done. And I knew I had to push myself, and I wanted to push myself with it. And there was some stuff once it was published, I'm like, whoa, brother, you went way, way off on a limb on some of this stuff in terms of how I presented it. And it worked out great, It still wasn't, I thought it'd be bad, but I'm like, I don't think it's ever been done quite that way yet before. And it worked out. But I was a little nervous once it hit out there. I'm like, I hope they want to pay me for it again, But it's taking those risks too. Don't be afraid to take risks, because you're going to fail. Just keep getting up.
Well, it was back to, I said, when they said, do the passion, keep the passion, and the money will come. When we were first doing these first couple of documentaries, dude, I was like, please don't overdraft your bank account or something. We're out there eating McDonald's and gas station burritos and stuff. But I got more experience doing this crazy wildlife shit with you than you could have ever gotten. You're just like, show up, hey, we're interviewing this guy. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Okay. And now I've set up 50 interviews, and it's just like, okay, this makes more sense. But the shark thing you keep talking about, roll up to a shark museum where we're like, all right, half hour, we got sharks going, and I got all this equipment. I'm like, and just, sometimes you have to throw yourself in the fire, man. Yeah, it's the only way. You can't be scared.
Yeah, but coming from that early place where you're like, I don't know about setting this interview up, to you and I looking over the edge of a boat and there being a 12-foot long great white shark there, you're filming, I'm narrating. Pretty cool moment.
That's insane. That still is one of the just most insane moments of my life. Is like I said earlier, I get sucked into stuff the whole preparing for this trip, lighting and all this crap is just drives me nuts. It's all I think about. I don't think about what we're going to be doing when we get there, because it's I know how to work a camera. I'm not scared of missing something, it could happen. But the shark trip in particular, which the documentary will be out in a couple of months, I don't know when this will be out, but whatever. Basically wake up one day, hop on a plane, fly to Boston, meet you at the airport. We get in a car, we go do what we normally do, drive around, find a hotel, blah, 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 get in there, and then wake up. We'll go interview some people at the shark thing, just another day interviewing people. I just happened to be in Cape Cod, which is cool. Eat a bunch of
lobster rolls,
lobster rolls.
Thank you, man.
And then wake up in the morning, another day with Chester, hop on a boat, going out there. I get seasick, so I'm out there on a boat and all of a sudden, they're like, there's a shark up there. And they're like, oh, get up there if you're going to film. So I'm standing there, have a gimbal. And then all of a sudden, I'm looking in the monitor, and I'm seeing this shark. And I'm like, there's a freaking great white shark. It didn't hit me until I'm looked over past my camera. My eyes focus. And I'm like, that's a freaking great white shark. That's how wrapped up in stuff I get. And it's just I can't believe still that I was there in person seeing a great white shark.
But your gifting is the ability to make films and to communicate ideas to the visual means.
Yeah.
Your passion is wildlife and the outdoors, and it met. My ability is communicating and presenting a story, and here I am helping produce this video and also writing things about that. And we were blessed to get to go out and do this incredible filming, you'll see this part of the video through a great conservation organization. And it was one of those moments, but other people can have the same kind of moments in their life, you know? And I think that's an important thing, is that, you know, realize life can be good. And on this thought, I just kind of want to wrap this thought up with people. You think, well, Paul's stressed out because he's doing this, and Chester probably gets stressed out organizing. Absolutely. But people get stressed out doing nothing. They get stressed out laying around the house, not figuring out, because they don't know what their life's going, what direction they're going. They get stressed out sitting in because they got this, this, and this. If you're gonna put energy into something, don't let it be nothing. Yeah. Let it be something.
If you're
let
gonna
it
be
be
stressed,
something great.
Make it be something stressed about something cool.
That's it. That's it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you made a good point. Like, you're gonna be stressed out anyway.
Yes.
If you're gonna be stressed out on your couch, you might as well be stressed out jumping out of an airplane and skydiving or something.
I got a friend that's always has told me, in the years I've known this person, you tire me out. You're always like tiring me out. Just, I think about you and I get tired because all the stuff you do. And I'm like, how you're not tired? I said, you're tired. I get tired. But in the process of me getting tired, I'm 3 feet away from a bighorn sheep. I'm looking at a great white shark. I'm with my daughter in the Everglades photographing manatees. I win.
Yeah.
Because I'm putting my toward something that's part of this vision and things like that.
Yeah, I make myself tired. So let's wrap up. I know we got a big long day of filming tomorrow. And the day after that, and the day after that, the day after that, and the day after that. But let people know where they can find you. I know you have about 50,000 platforms, whichever one you feel is appropriate for this podcast, but
all of them.
Yeah.
You can find me on Instagram at @thechestermore. Good place to connect. My Dark Outdoors podcast, which is about true crime and terrifying encounters in the great outdoors. It's on all major podcasting platforms. My blog at highercalling.net. And I have a Higher Calling Wildlife podcast as well, linked to that blog. It goes out once a month. And so lots of ways to connect. And I also have a new blog called GulfGreatWhites.com. It's all about great whites in the Gulf and other sharks in the Gulf and great whites around the world. So a lot of ways to connect, a lot of cool stuff to do, because I've got plenty of spare time to do all this stuff, right?
All right. Thanks, Chester.
Thank you for having me on, man. Very inspiring.